Premeditative daydreaming. It's where you pace around for hours on end, fabricating a perfect or desired reality where things happen just the way you want them to. I've tried this to help me sleep at night, but this just makes my mind think too much. Also, I have a problem with this where I do this all the time and I can't stop. I don't have anxiety, but I do have a big problem with daydreaming for hours on end where it will affect my mood, facial expressions and lip movements. And I'll sometime have to stop what I'm doing to finish the daydream. Would you have any idea if there is a name for this problem? Maladaptive daydreaming. As weird as this sounds, whenever I am having an anxiety moment, I have chronic anxiety, I watch lo-fi hip-hop beats to relax/study too. The music is soothing and there are often really nice people in the comments that can help me through it. What usually worked for me is the rule of fives. Anything that's getting me worried or worked up, ask myself, will this still be a problem in 5 minutes? 5 hours? 5 days? Etc. Things become a lot less scary when you realize they hardly ever make it past the first 2 questions. Honestly, Xanax is a literal lifesaver for me. Same. I'm only needed when a full panic attack happens, which, fortunately, is only every few months. Prozac helps manage it daily. I have to find a doc who will write it for me though. So many people abuse it in my area, it is hard to get docs to agree to prescribing. Same. My boyfriend and I both have anxiety and he gets a prescription of Xanax and my doctor won't give me one, probably because it's highly abused. I know it would help me but she still won't prescribe it. Maddening. I listen to music. I have 700 plus songs in my playlist, on a physical SD card. I have one for pretty much every occasion, everything from a funeral to rough sex, all within certain bounds of my taste. Do you have one for crashing a funeral? What about crashing a funeral with rough sex? Depends if you make meatloaf. Musical note, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. Musical note. I have 3 approaches: physical, long-term, and short-term. Physical, avoid sugar and carbs, get 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night, wake up at same time every morning, exercise every day. Long-term, gradual controlled exposure to things that cause me anxiety. For example, if I'm afraid to talk to strangers, which I start by going to a public place and keeping to myself. Next time I might make eye contact a few times, or maybe smile. Next time I'd ask someone for the time, or talk a little with a cashier. You get the point. Short term, I focus on my breathing, and remind myself of other situations where I was anxious, and it turned out okay. Instead of pushing the anxiety away, I accept it and pay close attention to how it feels, the slightly sick feeling, the quick heartbeat, ect. I just pay attention to the physical sensation and accept that it will be there while I do whatever it is that needs to be done. I have generalized anxiety disorder and major depressive disorder. Because of this I tend to constantly be thinking and overthinking things to the point of being anxious. I find that I cope the best when I look at situations from an outside perspective. So, rather than thinking how am I going to handle this, I think how should they handle this? Disconnecting myself takes the pressure off. It can confuse people sometimes though, because it gets to the point that I refer to myself as we despite considering myself to be one person with singular pronouns. I also bounce my leg a lot, so there's that. I was diagnosed with both of those disorders in 2008 in my 30s. Went to the hospital a couple times, once in an ambulance, before I figured out what panic attacks were. I was on medication for a few years and went to therapy. You can get through it. I have been free and clear of it for many years now. While I still do feel anxiety creeping up on me occasionally, it hasn't affected my life. I have a family, stable job, group of friends, and travel a bit. PM me if you want more details about what I did. Mostly unhealthy methods. Working too much. Drinking too much. Constantly thinking about what is triggering the anxiety. A child therapist told my daughter that sometimes anxieties and fears are like a plant. You water it, talk to it, tend to it, it thrives. You neglect it, it withers. The strategy that worked for her is to set aside her fears, and have 1 5-minute period every evening before dinner where she talks to us about her fears and worries. Then, we leave the rest till the next day. Mind you, this is about getting a 7-year-old to stop obsessing about bees in our yard, snakes at her school, cancer, whether her diet is healthy enough, dying in a shipwreck, we live in suburban Atlanta and she's never been on a boat of any kind, etc. This worked wonders for her. It's not really suppressing, it's using mindfulness to realize that there is no danger right this moment, and to postpone talking about the spiraling thoughts until the evening vent period. You're a good parent. Your daughter is immensely lucky to have you. Sounds like great parenting on dealing with cancer and shipwreck fears. Why are there so many bees in your yard and snakes at her school? There aren't. She got stung by a bee last year, and thinks she saw a snake in the woods at her school. It's a nature school, so they're always outside, in the woods, gardening, tending horses, etc. It's not like a snake slithered into a cafeteria or something. A nature school reminds of a certain school in the northern suburbs of Atlanta. Smile. Breathing in my nose and out of my nose. When we start breathing through our mouths and panting, it signals our body we are in trouble. If you stay through your nose, it helps you remain incredibly calm. I just used this technique recently and it changed my life. Highly suggest, heart. I was told by a counselor recently that people who have anxiety tend to take very shallow breaths. Since he said that, I've paid more attention to my breathing and it makes such a difference. I feel more alert, less worried about random things, and don't yawn nearly as much as I used to. Couldn't agree more. Certainly nor doing something to change your appearance. Nothing says I'm trying to cover up a mental breakdown quite like doing something drastic to your hair. Many pixie cuts later, I finally decided I should stop chipping all my hair off when I get stressed. Lol. Geez. If that works for you, then cool beans, but I can't even imagine how anxious I'd be if I changed something and people called me out on it or didn't like it. I don't know if this is the healthiest, but I have no worry times. These are just 2 hours of my day I put away where I don't worry about anything, and then I'll do the worrying later. It took me a while to get used to, but it helps. Also, taking shower helps for me, but I don't know if that's just me. I wish showering would help my anxiety. Showering is really difficult for me. I normally need some kind of stimulation to keep my mind busy, whether it's music or looking out a window, etc. But in the shower my anxiety takes over because there's nothing else to look at or listen to. I've been playing music in the bathroom lately, which sometimes helps, but it's still hard to not lose it on a bad day. Podcasts or audiobooks fix this for me. It's so crazy you mention this, because I find that if I'm having an anxious day, a shower doesn't help calm me down, it makes the anxiety so much worse. It's a claustrophobic feeling, I guess. I'm going to try the music. Thank you for sharing. I love this. That's a great idea. The shower thing for me too. I'm pregnant currently, and I found out that I am one of the lucky ones who gets postpartum depression symptoms during pregnancy. I figured this out when I went to take a shower and it didn't help, and I was actually screaming in pain by the time I got out of it. I was able to get help, and a few weeks later, we're doing much better. I feel normal again. Used to get major panic attacks and anxiety. Distractions helped me. Sometimes heading outside with some music and headphones while going for a walk to get some fresh air helps. Massages help. It sounds weird, but I've had friends that have given me neck rubs or massaged my scalp while I was freaking out thinking I was dying. For some reason it has helped during major panic attacks. It also helps when you have friends that experience the same thing. Showers tend to be good for me. Something about the water, whether it's hot or cold, kind of pulls me out of the anxiety or panic attacks I'm in. These things helped me most when I've had panic attacks or anxiety. It took years to conquer and I still get mild anxiety, but the most important thing that helped me was this. I've had panic attacks and anxiety episodes so bad I've called the ambulance or gone to the hospital. During those episodes, I 100% thought I was gonna die. Yet, here I am 5/6 years later writing this out to you all. I survived each episode and I will survive the future ones. If I can, so can you. Don't give up, friends. Valium and don't laugh, adult horror-themed coloring books. If this helps, I'm a software developer and at one of my jobs, they passed out coloring books after some stressful times. There was a bunch of grown men at work all sitting around a table having fun filling out coloring books. We had meetings that were just large blocks of time for nothing but coloring. And you know what? It worked. Got everyone to focus on something else and do a task that didn't really matter. Really refreshed people and helped us come up with some good solutions. Coloring books are a damn effective stress reliever. Sounds fun. Remember that anxiety will likely always be with you, but know that you are driving the car. When anxiety tries to drive, say no, I am driving, you go back to your seat. Personifying my anxiety helped a lot. I can now easily identify when I am talking and when my anxiety is talking. Clean my room till you are bored. Sounds dumb, but if you put a bit of music on, it distracts you and gets something productive done too. If this is you looking for advice, best of luck with your anxiety, man. Okay, but this is the last time I'm cleaning your room. I realized this shortly after, but it was too funny to edit. But Jordan Peterson would be proud. Just be sure to denounce postmodernism before and after using your vacuum. One technique that I was taught, which I actually find to be quite good, is to ground yourself. Pick 5 things you can see, 5 things you can hear, 5 things you can touch, etc. The 5 can be any number, and is probably better a bit lower, because of lack of answers, but the concept is still the same. It's supposed to get your mind working in the right way when it's being flooded in the wrong way, and basically help you control the thought process. It's connected to CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. How you think affects how you feel and how you behave and vice versa. If you are in an anxiety spiral, it's easier to think even more bad thoughts. Mindfulness is a method to jumpstart your way out of that type of spiral and instead focus on what is immediately in front of you. CBT is an absolute lifesaver for me. It was like putting on glasses for the mind. It corrected my vision of the world. I mean, there are limits and it is primarily symptomatic treatment, but after I went through with it, it became so much easier to work on my regular shit after that. Yeah man, nothing gets you out of a rut quite like cock and ball torture. Exercise. Can't stress enough how much that helps me with a lot of things. Everyone thinks I love going to the gym, but actually I hate it. I just need to go. Keeps me sane and fit. Exercise keeps the internal chatter to a minimum. It's almost like the voices get tired too. Too fucking true. I remember when I started going to the gym I was like, well I have this problem that I'm being anxious with, I'll think about it in the gym. Nope, it just went away for the time I was there. It's like a mute button to your thoughts most of the time. Self-awareness. When I realize my anxiety is bad, acknowledge it and come to terms with. If possible, think of why it's bad and realize it's temporary or just not worth getting anxious about. A step beyond this, for me, is to write out every anxious thought floating around. Typically, being anxious makes me snowball by thinking of all the things that make me anxious. When you take all these issues at once and try to juggle them in your head, it's easily overwhelming. So I make the time to write them all out, then I go back and respond to each one. Writing them out forces me to focus on each issue individually, understand what the source of my anxiety is for that issue, and consider how it might be rectified. By the end, I'm usually much less anxious because I've gotten everything out onto paper and considered it all individually rather than cumulatively. I am anxious because my paper isn't done yet and it's due in 2 days. If I don't get this paper done I'll probably fail and may not get my degree. Response: over the next 2 days there are at least 6 hours available to work on this paper. There are at least 8 to 10 hours if I reduce my sleep by a little. I know I can write a paper in less than 10 hours, so I know I'll have time. Tomorrow I'll do X for at least 3 hours, and the next day I'll finish with Y. Even if this paper isn't my absolute best work, it will still be a passing grade if I spend enough time on it. By passing, my overall grade is guaranteed to be good enough that I won't be kicked out. I'm anxious about my friend being mad at me, because I know I said something rude and hurt them. I don't want them to hate me or stop being my friend. Response: friends fight and people make mistakes. We've been friends long enough that they will likely forgive me. I should come up with a genuine apology and tell them how much I value them. I'll see them at an event Friday, so I want to send them this message by Thursday afternoon. Etc. Message: deep calm breathes. Funny enough, taking deep calm breaths actually makes me more anxious lol. It's almost like my brain knows I only do this when I start panicking, so I panic even more. Great strategy though, as I know it works for a lot of people. Same. 478 breathing was the exception. You might find it same for you. Otherwise, I recommend mindfulness. Super helpful. It's the meditation/soothing without the focus on breathing or the exact same rituals every time, that your brain learns and associates with anxiety the more you repeat. Or, you do what is recommended and do the calm breathing/rituals when calm often and consistently, so you train yourself to be calm when doing those things. But I don't know about you, I'm not that put together. My anxiety has hit an all-time high and it's comforting to me to see that I'm not alone. Thanks everyone for sharing. With as many people as there are in the world, there's always someone who can relate. Hope you start doing better.